They say if your house looks like it needs a coat of paint, you're already too late. Most homeowners think a fresh color is just about curb appeal, but our guest today argues it's actually the frontline defense for your home's structural integrity. Welcome back to America's Home Experts. I'm John Bujak, and today we're diving into the world of coatings and surface finishing with Colin Gates, the owner of Mastercraft Coatings. Colin's journey didn't start in a paint bucket. He actually left a career in finance because he realized he'd rather be working with tangible products than sitting behind a computer screen. Now he leads a team of 20 to 30 pros across Metro Detroit, tackling everything from complex wood rot and structural repairs to high-end exterior transformations. If you've ever wondered why your paint is peeling after just a few seasons, or what that Michigan weather is really doing to your siding, this is the episode for you. Colin, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Colin, how did you get into coatings and surface finishings?
So it's kind of a long story, but to make it short, I grew up on a farm in upstate New York, always doing construction projects as part of that, outside physical stuff. But high school at the time, you're mostly pushed towards like going to college, getting a white collar profession track, essentially. So I did that, and I was sold on it. I thought that's what I wanted to do for sure. And I went for finance. And then afterwards, I worked in finance doing that. But I realized pretty quickly sitting behind a computer and staying in the office all day, which ironically is a lot of what I do now, was not really for me. So I kind of knew I liked working outside, physical, tangible products. Like I'm not ever going to be a dude slinging AI or insurance or any of that. And, I'd had a condo or two that I'd bought in before that I always enjoyed remodeling, doing home improvement projects. So I really knew I wanted to kind of get into the construction field, and kind of through a broker, I was looking for businesses I could purchase, which has a select amount of advantages over starting a business. I think at this point with my skill set that I've accumulated through actually owning the business, would make no sense to buy one ever again. But for me, being somewhat green, it was hugely valuable because the old owners stayed on. I had a good work ethic, and I wouldn't say I was like the most naive person, but they kind of really they cut that learning curve pretty severely, which was helpful. And they were super high character, trained me, showed me everything. Like they wanted the business to succeed as I took it over, which is rare. Like I've talked to a lot of people that have done what I've done, bought a company that's pre-existing. And a lot of times the owners just want to check out, move on. I didn't have that experience. I would say it was almost the opposite. They had a hard time letting go. Like they were definitely ready to be done with the minutia and the stress and certain issues that anybody wears out of. But and I still talk to them probably every week, every other week. They're good people to bounce ideas off of. I would say that there was a lot of success with our transition. Every employee that I wanted to keep is still here. With them, maybe one that left for like they had a family out of state or out of country that they wanted to home to. And a lot of our clients we maintained. There's a little bit of churn, but not much. So, and we've grown a little bit too. We've added service offerings. Like they were always doing siding, carpentry repairs, but that's really blown up, which I don't think is necessarily from me pushing it, but it's homes in Michigan are aging. So the need for repairs is accelerating in conjunction with the age. So, yeah.
So it sounds like they really helped you transition from just someone who bought it to really being able to operate it.
Absolutely, I would say. I was, like I said, I wasn't the most naive person, but I was naive. There's plenty of things like, all these new ideas I had when I came to take over that weren't necessarily bad ideas, and they're still not necessarily bad ideas, but like the actual implementation of them, I might have been a little ahead of the curve on. And there was a lot of foundation laying that I needed to build before that was really possible.
What separates a painting company like Mastercraft from a guy with a brush in a van?
There's a couple things. I would say scale is one. We're not a huge company by any stretch of the imagination, but during the summer we're running 20 or 30 guys. So one, we're able to process larger projects, more volume. We're able to be a little more dynamic on scheduling. Like if you've got a rush or an urgency, we might be able to, pull a crew after this job and slip you into the schedule. That the other benefit of being a little larger, and I'm finally starting to realize some of the benefits of this because when I took over, we didn't have as many guys. You can cross train skills a lot more easily. Like if one guy's good at a certain thing, he can kind of cross pollinate that skill across the other guys. And we have a more diverse range of skill set in our crew. Like the thing that I think sets us apart from a lot of other painting contractors, and I'm not saying there's no other painting contractors that can provide the services we offer, but when it comes to an exterior, we can really pretty much do the full scope of work if it includes gutters, siding, miscellaneous wood repairs, structural repairs, which we frequently come across, all the way to the painting, right? Which is our bread and butter. So, and they don't have to contract 3 contractors. I've been on projects, and this is particularly advantageous, I think, on the commercial side, obviously on the residential side too. But, when you involve multiple trades in a project, they can all be great contractors for sure. But the scheduling lapse between them can be a huge pain point, which we can reduce significantly when we're responsible for everything. And it's easier for the homeowner or customer for accountability, right? Like when there's 3 guys and there's an issue, you've got 5 fingers pointing each way. Whereas when I'm handling the full scope of work, there's an issue. There's only one guy to point to, and generally that's me, right? So
makes it a lot easier.
It makes it a lot easier. It makes the stakes a little higher, but that's what we're equipped to handle.
No, I completely agree. We work the same way, whereas, we wear a lot of hats that are all intertwined with what we do, but our customers enjoy that because instead of having to talk, just like talk to 3 different, a painter, a siding company, a gutter, and then a general construction company, they could just deal with you, Colin, and have one company that they know is going to take care of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're looking for basically an exterior remodel, like gutters, fascia boards, siding, painting, right? We're a seamless experience for the most part on that. Whereas a lot of other painting contractors, they're going to be like, you're going to need to get a carpenter here before you call us, or, you want the gutters, you're going to have to get a select contractor. So, I mean, we still wear a lot of hats, don't get me wrong, but we've got the domain expertise in each one of those trades where we can solve most problems as long as we stay in our wheelhouse. That was another learning curve for me, is like, you don't want to be doing 50 projects a month that are 50 different types of projects. Like we try and stay in our lane which, maybe if I was running every job myself, could go out and, slip in a concrete repair here and, a window replacement there. But for the most part, like we kind of stay in our lane for the most part.
What are the biggest mistakes you're seeing from homeowners or business owners, building owners when they're hiring a painting company?
I would say, obviously, like a cost focus is the biggest issue, not a value focus, right? Like, don't get me wrong, like I don't think we're the cheapest, I don't think we're the most expensive, but I think from a value perspective, we are fairly optimized. Whereas, so we quote something and we might be 20, 30% higher, let's say, right? And the homeowner gets another quote that's 20, 30% lower. Well, you've got to do the legwork to kind of understand what that difference is. If the scope is apples to apples, which it very rarely is, yes, I'll go with the 20, 30% option that's cheaper, assuming that they've got Google reviews, they've got references. Like, for sure, I'm not trying to act like cost is not a huge part of the decision. I mean, we don't do massive tickets, but they're generally larger bills, 6 to 20,000 on average on the residential side, 50 to 150 on the commercial side. But really making sure the scope is apples to apples. Like if we're using Sherwin-Williams Duration and they're quoting Sherwin-Williams Super Paint, well, I would hope they would be cheaper, right?
Yeah.
If I said I'm going to replace all the fascia boards on your building due to them being substantial rot, and they're spot replacing the fascia boards and trying to salvage a couple, of course the cost is very different. But for the most part, they need to be able to drill down and have the base level of skills to compare and contrast quotes accurately.
What questions should homeowners and building owners ask before hiring?
I think the critical one is, are you subcontracted versus W-2? And like we discussed
That's a
on
good one.
I'm not opposed to the subcontractor method. I think that the most optimal form of performing the work is to have a hybrid. Like we talked about, like it's very important for contractors to have like specialization in the services they're providing, and the subcontracting can create depth on those domain expertises, I would say. But that being said, you don't want a contractor that's like just essentially a marketing company. And that is a large function of being a contractor, reaching out to customers. Like, how are you going to get a job if your customers have never heard of you? How can you
Right.
serve people if, you're not doing the outreach? So that is important, but there are people or contractors that take that a little bit too far. They sell the contract and then they're gone, right? So, but a
Yeah.
ways to kind of mitigate that, Google reviews is huge. Like it's hard
Hmm.
to Google reviews. So if you've got a lot of 1 stars, like there's a reason for that. I think we have maybe 1 star, which is from 7 years ago before I bought the company. I think that's telling because, I mean, we've had projects not go our way where there's been imperfections. And, that's going to happen when you're processing hundreds of jobs a year. But it's, we do our best to make them right, avoid a 1 star. And general, like, we haven't really gotten a 1 star. So, I think that's kind of a testament to the commitment to quality for sure. So
Absolutely. And as a business owner, we know that sometimes, you might do 100 projects that are great.
mhm.
And when things go great, people don't always, scream from the top of the rooftops saying how great you are, leaving reviews. But if, you do one thing wrong, they're the loudest. They're the loudest. So, right there's a testament to the quality of work that you're doing. If you're not getting those, or if there is a problem, I'm sure that you're on top of it to make sure that it's taken care of and fixing it to make sure that the homeowner or the customer is completely satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like it all starts from the ground up with the kind of guys you have
Yeah.
on club. Like I'm pretty strict about, I have a no a-hole policy, like pretty much for my guys. Um, like it's this game isn't worth it. Like I don't want to be the largest contractor in the world if it requires me working with guys that don't have the moral fiber to at least like make everything right and look decent. Like if you walk by an issue and you just keep walking, like this is not really the company for you. So that's kind of where it starts.
That's
Like
good.
that's first dredge net of fighting off issues, right? The second thing is there's multiple issues that happen on a job that are neither the homeowner's fault nor the contractor's fault. But nonetheless, they still need to be resolved, right? Like
Hmm.
a structural issue, right? If we pull your siding off and we find a fair amount of rot, we need to alert you. But
Right.
I don't know if there's actually a law, but I believe it is legally required somehow. My guys they know to alert me. I get multiple alerts like every day of, oh, on this job, there's going to be this and there's going to be
Yep.
that. Yeah. Whereas some guys, it's like if they don't have the domain expertise to like perform that structural repair, like the siding might go up either way, because the homeowner's not always babysitting the job. Right.
Hmm.
So, and that's terrible because, I mean, this is the structural integrity of homes. It's pretty critical.
It's their biggest investment.
It's huge.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about something I'm sure you're dealing with every day. What are the most popular colors right now?
So the white and black trend is really huge, which is a great look, but I think that it's people don't realize how hard white can be to maintain.
Especially with kids and pets and
Yeah,
husbands.
yeah, exactly. A lot of the lake properties we see kind of a trend towards like a naval blue or a dark blue or something like that. The neutrals, they're pretty consistent demand because we do a lot of repaints with not necessarily color changes. So the neutrals have been in so long, they've kind of stayed in for the most part. Yeah, I would say that.
When a homeowner's looking to get something painted, what rooms are going to give the best ROI?
So I don't focus too much on interior with my company.
Mostly exterior.
Yeah, we're mostly exterior. We do a select amount of interiors, mostly through referrals. But I mean, obviously the kitchen is huge, the living room, the entryway, that's probably the lowest hanging fruit in terms of ROI. I think the exterior is honestly underrated in terms of ROI. Like if you're going to sell your house, average home in Metro Detroit, let's call it 400,000 or 500,000, you put a $10,000 paint job on that, it's going to look measurably different than, one with rotten siding, rotten trim,
Right.
peeling paint, flaking paint. I think that's honestly the lowest hanging fruit for home value is the exterior.
How does it go? Go ahead.
I guess it depends. It's kind of like circumstantial, right? Like if your exterior
Sure.
looks okay, yeah, absolutely. Having a clean, fresh coat on the interior is going to be, it's just going to make it feel cleaner and look
Mhm.
sharper. It's all low hanging fruit, and relative to the cost of doing it, you'll see that value if you sell it, or even if you keep it, right? It's just nice for peace of mind.
Now, because you're doing in the painting of the exterior, you're doing replacing siding, right? Like you could do
Yeah.
siding as well. What are they choosing? Or are more of it saying, "Hey, let's just put another coat on," or how do you give advice to it when it comes to it's time to freshen up the exterior?
So like that's a pretty complicated question. A lot of people have their hearts set on re-siding, even if their
Mhm.
home is fine, right? They just want a different look. James Hardy, it's very popular. Even a
Yep.
lot of the newer vinyls look great. The vinyl's more of a cost-effective option, obviously, than James Hardy. But in Michigan, a lot of homes were built with the T111 back in the 70s and 80s, which has a 30-year lifespan. So a lot of that is kind of coming online for being replaced. Depending on the financial situation of the homeowner, if they want to pursue a full siding job, generally the T111 will get re-sided into vinyl or hardy. If there's repairs, it's T111. We do a ton of repairs on T111. There's a massive amount of T111 that needs to be replaced in Michigan at this point. Well, I would say the thing I would say on siding is there's no silver bullet on siding. It's a great investment for your home, and you can certainly reduce maintenance in the long run, but they all have maintenance in the long run. Whether it's vinyl, you should be power washing it, cleaning it, every year, every 2 years. Hardy, yes, it's marketed as you don't need to paint it, but the spec
Right.
recently changed, or not recently changed, a few years ago it was changed. It's actually in their warranty that you're required to touch up pops and all that stuff. It's a great product. I love Hardy,
Mhm.
but nothing's maintenance free. That's the biggest misnomer I see from people is I want something maintenance free. Vinyl's as close as you can get, but it's still after the heavy winds. I mean, I live in Milford. I see on the Milford Facebook page so many people saying, "Oh, I had siding blow off in the wind," which can be installer error for sure, but for the most
Mhm.
part, that is a weakness of a lighter lap siding as it get wind damage.
Yeah, especially with the winds we just had here. Speaking of weather, Michigan's crazy. It's all over the place. Winter we're down -20. In the summer we're up to over 100 sometimes. What's affecting both the paint and the siding and all that? How does it differ?
Yes, I mean in in Michigan, so it's the expansion, right, from the heat and the
Mhm.
cold that really is what affects the durability of paint over time. Like if we had homogeneous temperatures like 60, 70 year round, the paint would likely last significantly longer depending on sun exposure, right? So the
Mhm.
more sun on houses, you'll frequently see certain exposures, like certain sides of the house weather substantially faster than the opposite side of the house that doesn't get the sun exposure as much. So there's higher quality paints that have better pigment retention, which that's why we generally recommend Duration or Emerald products. Benjamin Moore, basically the pigment retention or the color retention and color fastness is substantially different across products. So if that's something you're worried about, that's a way to mitigate it is a higher quality paint. The other issue is the thermal expansion, right? Like we were at 20 degrees yesterday, sub freezing.
Yeah.
Today we're at 50. If you have wood trim, wood siding, vinyl siding, James Hardy siding, like there's thermal expansion that occurs, right? Like that board will expand a quarter inch to a half inch, maybe, let's say, just on the swings of temperature like this. And that's really hard on the paint because it's cured to the surface, right? When that surface starts moving, that obviously weakens the bond of paint, right? So
Mhm.
allows water ingress in wood trim too. That's where you see a lot of this rock come from.
Mm. So now that we're talked a little bit about how the weather's affecting it, what are the signs that you need to get work done on the exterior? Is it like for either painting or replacement? What
So
can people look for?
this is like kind of the biggest, one of the biggest questions that I always address. They're like, our house doesn't look like it needs to be painted. And I'm like, that's not necessarily a reason not to paint. Like at the end of the day, paint is largely a preventative measure versus a reactive measure. If your house looks like it needs to be painted, it should have already been painted.
Yes.
The point of paint is to preserve the integrity of the substrate it's on, not the other way around. So, yes, you can delay painting and maybe save a couple bucks on average, but you are sometimes just shifting that cost into the repairs needed on your building. Obviously, this doesn't concern vinyl as much because it's waterproof, right? But that being said, it's a 40, 50-year product, let's say, warranted for 25 or 30 years. It gets brittle. The more frequently that you paint it, that reduces the amount of sun exposure that's going to make that vinyl brittle, which will make all the fasteners and the hangers snap, basically. So I would say that, it's more of a timeline perspective, right? James Hardy, yeah, probably 8 to 10 years you should be painting your house. If you have T111 wood siding, I would say 5 years. Every 5 years you should be painting it. Same with wood trim. You should get your wood trim painted every 5 years. Yes, you can stretch that out maybe with higher quality paints, but the benefit of higher quality paint, yes, is durability. That is a primary benefit, but the other one, like I mentioned, is color fastness. It doesn't mean you can go 14 years between paint cycles, right?
Right. Right. They always say if it looks like it needs maintenance, it's already too late. That's what I keep hearing.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you're no different than a vehicle, right? Like you don't
Right.
need to get an oil change every 5,000 miles, but you're reducing the lifespan of that car from maybe you can go 200,000. If you don't do an oil change, you're probably only going to get, or you don't frequently do oil changes, you're probably going to only get 120. So, I mean, what is cheaper, I guess. And that the other benefit is aesthetic. You want to keep it in good shape, good looking good, right? So it is mostly preventative, but there's aesthetic benefits as well.
Colin, walk us through the sales process from estimate to final walkthrough. How do you guys handle it?
Yeah, so lead comes in. We generally try and pick up first ring if it's during normal business hours. If not, we'll call you back next day early, and then we'll book an appointment with me or one of our sales guys. Usually it's really just when the customer is available, maybe not same day, but we'll come out, we'll meet with you. We're not like some larger contractors are really particular about both decision makers being home, husband and wife.
High pressure, high pressure.
Yeah, which, I mean, we'd love to close the sale that day if possible, but that's not really our system. We'll meet with you. It's best if you do the walk around with us. We can point out any of the issues because, I mean, so many walkthroughs with homeowners I've been on, I'm like pointing out this, and this, and they're like, oh, you've done this before. I'm like, yep, hundreds of times. Like it's pretty standard. All houses are really built pretty similar in the grand scheme of things, but it helps them kind of understand, like, why they might think that we're coming out just to do a paint job, and they're thinking 4 or 5K, and right, and then we'll be like, there's a lot of issues here that need to be corrected. And we sell a lot of gutters because they'll know that their wood's rotten. I'm like, well, the reason your wood is rotten is because that gutter's been leaking on it for the past 5 years. It's really time for that to go, essentially. And rot or issues, they generally compound. Like even on vinyl, like if you have a leak or an issue, like the problem with vinyl is you're not going to see that for a long time. And homes built in the these are the 2000s did not always have a vapor barrier put on. So yeah, we kind of walk through all the issues, or if we're lucky, there's no issues, but it kind of explain the process. We're going to come here, we're going to power wash like a couple days before we paint. The painters will be out a day or 2 or 3 after that. We're going to prep the house. We're going to caulk all the seams. We're going to scrape any failing paint, etc. And then we'll either specify 1 or 2 coat systems. If it's a repaint, generally we go for a 1 coat system. If it's a color change, of course, 2 coats for the most part. And then after that, we're going to do a walkthrough with you guys, see if there's any issues, close it out. And if there's anything after that, like a lot of times homeowners will call like, oh, like after the fact, something, we just send a service tech out, basically take care of it. It's usually all good. Yeah, but Yeah, no high pressure close tactics here. If we can get you the estimate on site, if it's simple, but that's not always really viable. Like if we have to measure the gutters, we have to measure the whole house. Like we don't want the homeowner hanging out for 3 hours while we prepare a
Right.
quote. Like, you know, them have to go pick up their kidder and be like, oh crap, I gotta wait for this estimator to give me my proposal. So if it's viable, we will, but if not, we'll generally email it over and, we'll follow up, but nothing
Hmm.
crazy. Like we're not going to be calling you, harassing you, or anything like that. So pretty standard. I think it's I don't as if you talk to like sales trainers or like listen to sales, like I think we're doing it all wrong basically with the not
I
press.
see. I disagree, Colin. I think you're doing it all right, man. As a homeowner myself, when we got our windows replaced a couple years ago, we had 3 companies come in,
Yeah,
and 2 of them were like, "Well, you both need to be here," and I'm like, "No,
it,
no, we don't. I'm not available." And the next time, my wife wasn't available, and
hmm
then it was so high pressure. It was like, "Well, the price is good for today." Today, and I'm like, so tomorrow the manufacturing of these windows is going up how much?
yeah,
Like it was insane. And then we met Window World,
hmm
and they were great.
yeah.
Easy, no pressure, gave us a price. We're super friendly, family owned, and it sounds like you guys are on the same path. And homeowners appreciate that, Colin. They're sick of getting high pressure sales, man. That's why they don't like going to dealerships.
Yeah, I think everything comes in waves, like, right? Like all this stuff is a fad. Like you see all these trucks on the road, like they got the dog logo or some animal logo wrapped. And I mean, we have wrapped vehicles, like we want to get our brand out there, but it's
Right.
like when you, I think for us, it's more just about consistency, like, and then the sales will come if you do a good job. Like word of mouth is still to this day the best form of marketing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's really necessary to do that and destroy your brand as a high pressure sales organization.
How long should a quality paint job actually last?
Like I said, it depends on substrate, vinyl, 7 to 10 years. Wood, like I said, you should really be doing it every 5 to 7 years. Even at the 7 years, it shouldn't be like there be any like massive failure or anything like that. But it should still look good depending on the product you use, right? Which we do push a higher quality paint. We're a larger buyer of Duration and Emerald products, which are Sherwin-Williams. PPG has great products too. Ben Moore is obviously terrific. But yeah, I would say if you want to push it, 7 to 10 years would be great. But, you should really be 5 to 7 years for the most
Right.
part.
Right. It's maintenance. It's your most valuable asset. You have to take care of it. If you
Yeah.
don't, it just gets worse.
Yeah. I mean, it also increases the cost of the paint job. A lot of the times, like, I can do a 2-story, 500 square foot cheaper than I can do a 1,200 square foot ranch that hasn't been painted in 20, 30 years. Like, it makes the prep so much more like reasonable. It's already in good shape. It's just easier.
I like how you pointed out that the paint is really to protect the undersurface. Like, that's
Mhm.
not something that people really think of, that it's there as a protective barrier.
No, that's all. That's all. All it's obviously aesthetic, like we talked about, but for the
Yeah.
most part, like in Michigan, there's a lot of these homes were made by builders, right? So like they didn't really spring for like a high end composite trim that would handle weathering. So for the most
Hmm.
part, wood substrates, like the paint is meant to preserve them and keep them intact, watertight, essentially, or water preventative, however you want to word that.
Colin, what makes Mastercraft so different than everyone else?
I think it's just our team, really. Like I said, I really try and focus on like keeping the guys that are in our crew, whether it's me or the salesman, the people taking the phone calls, or actually doing the work, actually being able to do the work. We're not going to stick a nail gun in some guy's hand that's never held one before. It doesn't work out for the homeowners, and it doesn't work out well for us too. Right, like we want to do a good job. It's not profitable to be coming back 15 times. Like it's not profitable to put a guy who's got no experience doing the service we're providing. So I would really just say a heavy focus on like our guys' skill sets and putting the right guy in the job and turning away jobs that we don't feel we can perform as well. Like I said, I started to really focus on the type of jobs that we're good at and not chasing sales, not chasing some huge top line number to be the biggest revenue contractor in Metro Detroit. It's the goal is to be lean, efficient, competitive, and quality, basically.
And what areas do you serve here?
We serve most of Metro Detroit. We're heavily focused on like Novi, Milford, Brighton, Howell, West Bloomfield, Plymouth, and we do a lot in Ann Arbor as well. We don't make it over to the east side as much, but I think that's more so our marketing doesn't stretch over there as much. Rochester Hills, we do a fair amount in. Fenton, we'll do some in. Yeah.
That's a good area, though. And if how can someone get a hold of you guys to get a quote?
The website, www.mastercraftcoatings.com. You can fill out a lead form. You can call the office, which is 734-266-1500. Direct mailers. Hopefully you guys get one. So you can contact off of that. We do our SEO, so there's multiple ways you can contact us. You can email me at cgates@Mastercraft Coatings too. Mastercraftcoatings.com. But yeah, we're pretty accessible. We're pretty accessible.
The owner's giving out his own personal info. That's awesome. That's how you know it's a great company. Get a hold of me. I'm not too busy to talk to everybody.
Yeah, I'm pretty involved in it at this size.
That's awesome. Colin, thanks so much for being on America's Home Experts podcast. We appreciate it. Our listeners appreciate it. I'm sure they learned a lot. Thank you again, Matt.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Huge thanks again to Colin Gates from Mastercraft Coatings for joining us today. If there's one thing to take away from today's conversation, it's that your home exterior is a preventative game. Don't wait until the wood is rotting or the paint is flaking to start thinking about maintenance. Whether you're in Novi, Milford, Ann Arbor, the team at Mastercraft is ready to help you protect your biggest investments. I'm John Bujak, and this has been America's Home Experts. We'll see you next time.